What's all the fuss about anyway? After all, people have been using pesticides to control home and garden pests for years. It might help to look back a few years to the synthetic pesticide DDT. When it was first introduced during World War II, it was hailed as a miracle product because it quickly got rid of mosquitoes that were spreading malaria. It wasn't discovered until later that the overall long-term effects of DDT were worse than the fix. We now know that DDT indiscriminately kills both pests and beneficial insects. The few mosquitoes that survived the first round of spraying passed their DDT resistance along to later generations of mosquitoes, and their populations rebounded despite increased pesticide use. Even worse, DDT residue accumulated in the soils, in birds and animals, and even human beings. The DDT that accumulated in the bodies of bald eagles, peregrine falcons, and other birds caused their eggshells to become thin and fragile. Often the delicate eggs broke before they could hatch, killing the baby birds growing within. Some bird populations hovered just above the point of extinction. DDT was banned in the United States in 1972, but by that time, many new pesticides were already on the market. The new pesticides were supposed to break down into safer substances a short while after application. Unfortunately, over time, some of these replacement pesticides also had lingering and harmful effects on the environment, animals, and people. Home and garden pests are any life forms that we want to eliminate from our environment, including certain plants, animals, and diseases. Some insect-eating animals, such as spiders and birds, can be considered both beneficial and pests, depending upon the circumstances. And a weed, according to the old saying, is really just a plant growing in the wrong place. The modern method for controlling unwanted insects, weeds, diseases, or animals in our homes or gardens is called Integrated Pest Management, or IPM. IPM is a common-sense approach to pest management that uses a combination of tools and tactics. It includes barriers and other physical techniques, predatory insects, and fewer, less toxic pesticides to control but not completely eradicate pests.
One of the things that people need to really understand about integrated pest management, integrated pest management does not mean no chemicals. That's not what it means. What it means is you figure out who the bad guys are. You figure out when you can take care of them. You figure out what the least intrusive way, I mean, for the rest of the animals and yourself and your children and your pocketbook, what the best way of dealing with this thing is going to be. If you've tried all the cultural things, and you've tried spraying with water, and you've tried changing your irrigation system, and you've tried changing how many times you're mowing the lawn, and you still have a pest, and it's at a point where it's really, you're going to lose the plant, or it's at a point where you absolutely can't tolerate it anymore, then we don't say that the chemicals are not allowable. They're perfectly usable, but you have to know what the right one is to use at the right time. So it's sort of a process from point 0 to point 10, and we just ask that you don't start at 10, if you can start at 0.
Under IPM guidelines, we recognize and prevent pest problems before they start. We tolerate some damage caused by pests and use chemical pesticides as a last resort.
This area here is where I talked about tolerance. This home has plants that are actually growing out of the planter bed, coming down through the stone here, and then growing out into the lawn. And if you could see this whole yard here, which you can't see it from this camera, but this is a beautiful yard, and if you just step back a few feet from here, you actually can't see these plants growing here. And a lot of people like to focus on what they can see just by looking right down at it. But if you drive by in a car or walk up your front walkway, you're not going to see this. And so there's really no reason to come along here and try to kill all of this when it actually is part of the overall design of the landscape.
Pesticides are showing up in treated wastewater, creeks, the bay, and the delta, sometimes at levels that are toxic to sensitive aquatic life at the base of the food web. To help solve this problem, water pollution prevention agencies are encouraging people to use a less toxic approach to pest control.
As a water pollution prevention person, I'm interested in integrated pest management because it's a way of solving a bug problem without creating a water quality problem. You know, pesticide use in California has exploded over the last decade. Some of these pesticides are finding their way into sewers, washing off lawns and going into the gutters and creeks, and impacting and even killing sensitive aquatic life, which is the base of the food web for fish.
Products containing chlorpyrifos and diazinon have been determined to cause toxicity to aquatic life at the base of the food web. You can understand pesticides better by reading product labels. First, look for the pesticide's active ingredients. Some of the less toxic pesticides include insecticidal soaps, horticultural oils, and boric acid powders. Insecticidal soaps can be recognized by their active ingredient, potassium salts of fatty acids. Insecticidal soap is similar to the soap we use to clean our dishes and kills many soft-bodied insects upon contact. It dissipates rapidly so it won't harm beneficial insects that later come into the treated area. Horticultural oils coat insect surfaces, causing suffocation. They are most effective at killing immature insects and insect eggs and are usually labeled dormant oil, summer oil, or year-round oil. The active ingredient for horticultural oils is most often listed as petroleum oil or paraffin. Boric acid can be used to control many indoor pests. Even though its name implies that it's dangerous, it's one of the least toxic pesticides. Boric acid or orthoboric acid will be indicated as the active ingredient. Diatomaceous earth, or DE, is another product that controls the same pests. It contains ground-up microscopic animal shells that kill insects by piercing the waxy covering on their bodies without damaging the environment. By definition, all pesticides are toxic. Look for information on the label that indicates each product's degree of toxicity to human beings. Caution is the least toxic level. Warning indicates more toxicity, and danger means highly toxic. Poison, along with the skull and crossbones, leaves no doubt that the chemical product can kill much more than just rats or gophers. Any pesticide can be harmful if improperly applied. For example, notice the word danger on the label of these products containing lime sulfur. Applied during the dormant season, lime sulfur prevents peach leaf curl and other diseases on fruit trees. Lime sulfur doesn't harm the environment, but can burn people's lungs, eyes, or skin if proper protective equipment is not worn during application. Encourage your customers to read, understand, and follow all label directions for measuring, mixing, applying, storing, and for safe disposal of the product. Sell your customers the protective gear suggested on the product labels, such as goggles, gloves, or respirators. Remind them that in California it's illegal to throw pesticides in the garbage or dump them down sinks or storm drains. These chemicals should be taken to a local facility that accepts materials like pesticides, paint, old batteries, and other hazardous materials. For example, the Central Contra Costa Sanitary District in Martinez has a household hazardous waste facility for its service area residents and businesses that accepts pesticides for reuse or proper disposal. Your customers can locate a collection facility or collection event in their area by calling their county health department or local garbage company. You'll find that many of your customers are eager to learn about less toxic solutions to pest control problems. And when you give them advice about less toxic pest control, you'll have many sales opportunities.
More and more people are very conscious of the environment, and so they are asking for the alternative sprays. They're asking for sprays that are not as toxic, and so it's a lot easier now in the business to be selling IPM products.
When your customers ask for pesticides, remind them they can solve many problems without using any pesticides at all. And there are many less toxic pesticides available.
At Palo Alto Hardware, we instituted an integrated pest management program about 2 years ago. So the success of the program has been absolutely phenomenal. We are not only selling better products, less toxic products to the consumer. Our sales have increased in the garden department. Sales are probably up about 10 to 15% overall in the department. And I attribute most of that to the increased sales in less toxic pest control. Our sales in our more toxic pest controls like the Dursban and chlorpyrifos products have actually decreased, and that's the ultimate goal that we're trying to see. We're trying to have a reduction in those chemicals and a substitution with the less toxic products. When we started the Integrated Pest Management Program, we did extensive employee training, and we talked an awful lot about the right choices to suggest to the customers all the products that qualified under the less toxic pest control program. And we also identified them on the shelf. So we used the shelf talkers extensively, shelf talkers like this, which identified products which fit well with the less toxic pest control. It does a couple of different things. One, it draws the customer's attention to these products, and hopefully they'll reach for those rather than for the more toxic pest controls. But it also reinforces for our employees that this product is the product of choice that we'd like to recommend for our customers. So it makes our employees feel much more comfortable, especially if they haven't had the IPM training, and especially if they feel uncomfortable in the garden department. So the shelf talkers have worked well. We've done displays on the end caps to draw attention to the IPM program. But really the heart of the program is putting the less toxic products right next to the more toxic products, and then making that customer change their product selection to the less toxic item.
To learn more about problem solving without pesticides both in the home and in the garden, watch video 2, Keeping the Home and Garden Healthy the Less Toxic Way, and video 3, Home and Garden Pests and Problems.